Chapter 103. When everyone saw the arrogant expression on Mr. Lane's face, the surrounding crowd held their breaths because they were certain that Alex would lose in this confrontation. However, Alex had a calm expression on his face, and he smiled as he replied, "I think that this is not your first time participating in an antique trade. Do you have any idea what is the most important thing in the antique trade industry?" Mr. Lane looked at Alex with a cold expression on his face as he replied, "What?" Alex laughed before answering, "Of course it is the rule governing antique trading." After that, Alex raised his voice slightly before he continued speaking. In antique trades, it is always a first-come first-served basis. I came first, and I was the first person to buy this pebble. Therefore, this pebble belongs to me already. Even if you kneel before me and beg me to give it up to you, I will not give it to you, otherwise, I will be allowing you to break the rules today. Who would want to continue doing business with you on Antique Street if you are going to break the rules to get what you want? You will be barred from coming into Antique Street, Mr. Lane." Mr. Lane was stunned upon listening to Alex's words, and anger flashed across his face. He knew that this rule indeed existed in the antique trade industry, even proclaiming himself to be an educated person, and yet, here he was, evidently trying to break the rules. If rumors of this incident were to spread, no one would want to deal with him anymore in the future out of fear that they would be offending their other customers. Mr. Lane did not expect Alex to render him speechless with just a few words. Therefore, he glared at Alex in frustration, struggling with his urge to kick the latter in the face. Alas, all he could do was swallow his anger and grit his teeth before saying, "Did you really think that I was interested in the pebble at all? I was just trying to put you in your place. I want you to realize that not everyone is cut out to trade antiques. Since you obviously look like you come from a poor family, you should just go home and plant some vegetables in your garden. Don't come here and spoil the market value of these antiques." After saying that, Mr. Lane rolled up his sleeves and raised his hand before waving it in front of Alex. "Open your eyes and look at this clearly. I bought this jade bracelet not too long ago for $1,800,000. Have you ever seen such a beautiful and rare piece of jade in your life?" The jade bracelet on Mr. Lane's arm was crystal clear and it shone brightly under the sun. Everyone around them was staring at the jade bracelet with their eyes wide open because it was really very beautiful. Sherlin also stared at Mr. Lane's hand as he exclaimed, "Wow! What a beautiful piece of jade!" "Of course!" Mr. Lane responded arrogantly, seemingly satisfied with everyone's reaction. After that, he glanced at Alex contemptuously as he lowered his collar and pulled out a gourd-shaped pendant that was attached to a necklace around his neck. "Why don't you take a look at this, too?" This chalcedony pendant was passed down from the emperor to his son in the Sui dynasty. 88 high-ranking monks actually set up an altar to consecrate Buddha and recite the scriptures for 108 days before making this pendant. It is worth at least $5 million. When the crowd heard that the chalcedony pendant was worth that much, they craned their necks to take a closer look at the pendant. Meanwhile, Sherlin rubbed his nose in excitement as if he had just seen something priceless. He was staring right at the chalcedony pendant, itching to get his hands on it. Mr. Lane toyed with the chalcedony pendant in his hand as he sneered at Alex. "If you are just a poor man who cannot even afford to buy a decent piece of clothing, stop trying to take part in an antique trade. It makes people want to laugh at you." His tone was very sarcastic, and because of his words, the people in the crowd started glancing at Alex. Indeed, Alex did not look like a wealthy person at all. He was wearing a very casual white t-shirt, a pair of jeans, and sneakers, like any other regular young working man. On the other hand, although it seemed as though Mr. Lane was dressed in an effortless and casual manner, anyone could tell that his set of clothing was costly. Each piece of his clothing was handmade, and his entire outfit was probably worth at least 6 figures. Alex stared at Mr. Lane with a smug expression on his face because he felt that this man was a joke. He was not a villain. He was merely a rich young man who wanted to show off and brag about his wealth. Alex smiled before he looked at Mr. Lane and said, "You must be really rich, But even though your jade bracelet is stunning, unfortunately, it is a fake." Mr. Lane was taken aback for a moment before he roared, "You are talking nonsense. How can my jade bracelet possibly be a fake? If you do not believe me, you can ask the other bosses in the antique shops around you." Alex shrugged before he continued speaking. "If you are rich enough to invest in antiques, you should at least know the value of the item you are purchasing instead of buying fake goods. Right now, you are nothing more than a blind man who is going around the antique industry, pretending to be very well versed in antiques when you know absolutely nothing at all." Mr. Lane was very irritated. Alex was obviously mocking him and calling him ignorant. Therefore, he said sternly, "If my jade bracelet is authentic, I want you to kneel before me and apologize to me. How about that?"